Golden Retriever puppy lay bleeding in the snow until a woman broke every rule to save him. It was a night like no other, the kind where the snow piled up, thick and unrelenting, turning the world into a blur of white. The storm roared fiercely, and the air bit at the skin with a cold that could freeze you to your core. In the middle of this chaos, a tiny golden retriever puppy lay shivering and alone on the icy ground. His golden fur was matted with blood, and his body was too weak to move. Each ragged breath he took sent a tremor through his fragile form. His cries for help were soft, barely cutting through the howling wind. But they were there, faint but desperate. No one could hear him except for the night itself, which seemed to swallow the sound. This puppy, no older than a few months, had been abandoned in the storm, left for dead. He lay in the cold, an innocent life whose only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The clinic's lights were dimming inside, and the last of the staff was packing up for the night. No one noticed the puppy, and no one cared. The doors to the clinic were locked, the place officially closed for business. The storm outside grew harsher, and with each minute that passed, the puppy's chances of survival dwindled. He was running out of time. Inside the clinic, it was almost over. The workday had ended, and the staff was heading home. The clinic, a small bustling place of healing for animals, was now empty. The only sound was the shuffle of footsteps and the hum of the fluorescent lights as the last of the cleaning crew wiped down counters. But outside, in the cruel, biting cold, the puppy was fighting for his life. His body was broken, his leg twisted unnaturally beneath him, his breathing shallow and uneven. The snow around him was beginning to turn red from the blood pooling beneath him. It was a heart-wrenching sight, yet no one inside the clinic knew of his suffering. He was helpless, alone, with no one to save him, and no one to hear his quiet pleas. The storm seemed to mock his desperation, as if nature itself wanted to erase his existence. Would anyone even notice him before it was too late? As the clinic's doors locked for the night, the finality of the situation sank in. No one was coming. The puppy was out there, alone, abandoned in the snow, his small form growing weaker with each passing second. He had no hope, no one to turn to. It seemed as though the world had forgotten him, but there was one person still inside who couldn't ignore the call. Dr. Olivia Turner was no stranger to the demands of working in a veterinary clinic. A young intern, eager to prove herself, she spent countless hours on her feet, assisting with procedures, tending to patients, and absorbing everything she could from the experienced doctors around her. Her passion for animals ran deep. Ever since she was a little girl, she knew she was meant to help those who couldn't speak for themselves. That evening, Olivia was exhausted. The day had been long, with back-to-back cases, and the clinic was finally starting to quiet down. She had finished her last round of checkups, and now, as the evening settled in, she was ready to head home and rest. But as she began to gather her things, a strange, unsettling feeling crept over her. She glanced toward the window, where the storm outside seemed to grow more intense by the minute. The thought of a stray animal caught in the blizzard crossed her mind for only a moment before she quickly pushed it away. It was the end of her shift. She had no obligation to stay any longer, and the clinic was closed. She could easily ignore the storm and leave, but she couldn't shake the nagging thought that something wasn't right. As Olivia turned to leave, her eyes lingered on the clinic's glass door. That's when she saw it, a small, trembling figure in the distance, barely visible through the flurry of snow. Her heart skipped a beat. Was that the puppy? Before she could even process it, she felt a rush of panic and instinct. She had to do something. She couldn't just leave that poor creature out there, suffering in the storm. But there was a problem. The clinic's rules were clear. No procedures could be done after hours without proper supervision. There were protocols, and Olivia knew she couldn't act without permission. She was still an intern, and breaking the rules could cost her the internship she'd worked so hard for. But then she thought about the puppy again. His fragile little body, barely clinging to life, alone in the storm. Could she really walk away from that? Olivia stood frozen in the doorway, torn between duty and compassion. On one hand, she could follow the rules, walk away, head home, and pretend she never saw the puppy. But on the other hand, she felt the pull of something stronger, the need to save him. The storm outside grew fiercer, and Olivia knew time was running out. The puppy's chances of survival were slim, and every second counted. She took a deep breath, made up her mind, and stepped back toward the door. The rules, for the moment, could wait. Her heart was leading her in a different direction. Olivia's heart raced as she pulled her coat tightly around her, ready to step into the storm. The clinic was locked, and everyone had already left. But that didn't matter now. Outside, a tiny life was waiting, a puppy who might not survive another minute in the freezing cold. She glanced around the empty clinic one last time, making sure no one was watching. She could already feel the weight of what she was about to do. The rules were clear. No emergency procedures after hours. She was an intern, and breaking protocol could mean losing everything she had worked for. But in that moment, the thought of walking away was impossible. She couldn't leave him out there, not when he needed her. With a final glance back at the closed doors of the clinic, Olivia hurried toward the exit. The cold air hit her like a slap in the face as she stepped outside. The snow was coming down harder now, the wind howling in her ears, but she ignored it all. Her focus was on the small figure lying in the snow. The puppy's cries were weak but unmistakable. She could hear the pain in them, the silent plea for help. Her hands shook as she approached him, but she pushed the fear aside. There was no time to waste. She gently scooped the puppy up in her arms, his tiny body cold and limp. His fur, once golden, was now matted with blood. His eyes fluttered open just enough to meet her gaze, and for a moment it felt as though he was trusting her with his life. That was all she needed to know. She had to save him, no matter the cost. With the puppy cradled in her arms, Olivia hurried back into the clinic. The warmth inside was a stark contrast to the freezing world outside, but even the warmth couldn't calm the urgency she felt. She rushed to the nearest exam room, setting the puppy down gently on the table. There was no time to waste. She could already see the signs of shock. His body was limp, his breathing shallow. His little body was fighting to stay alive, but it wasn't going to be enough without immediate intervention. She ran to the supplies, her hands moving quickly despite the fear coursing through her veins. She knew the procedures, she had studied them, practiced them, but now, with the clock ticking and no one else around to help, the pressure was overwhelming. Olivia took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her, but there was no turning back. She had made her choice. The puppy needed her. She worked quickly, her hands steady as she started the first steps of treatment. The puppy's body was fragile, his injuries severe, but Olivia refused to give up on him. She was in this alone, and for the first time, she realized she wasn't just following her training, she was following her heart. Every moment mattered, and in that moment, Olivia knew she would do whatever it took to save this tiny life, even if it meant breaking the rules. Olivia's hands were steady now, though the pressure of her secret weighed heavily on her shoulders. She worked in complete silence, focused entirely on the puppy in front of her. The storm raged outside, but inside the clinic, she had carved out her own world, one where her sole purpose was to save this innocent life. But as she worked, time seemed to slip away unnoticed, until the soft sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Olivia's heart skipped a beat. She froze. The clinic was supposed to be empty, but she hadn't accounted for Dr. Vivian Hargrave, the clinic's stern and exacting head vet. Olivia's breath caught in her throat as the door to the treatment room creaked open. Dr. Hargrave's gaze immediately fell on the scene before her. Her eyes locked onto the puppy on the table, still unconscious, and then to Olivia, who was standing over him, a syringe in hand, completely caught in the act. For a moment, there was a heavy silence. Dr. Hargrave's expression was unreadable. Olivia could feel the weight of her supervisor's gaze, sharp and calculating. Her heart hammered in her chest. There was no pretending she hadn't done what she'd done. "Olivia," Dr. Hargrave's voice was calm, but with an edge that made Olivia's pulse race. "What is this?" Olivia's throat tightened. She quickly wiped her hands on her coat and stepped back, trying to calm the rush of panic that threatened to overtake her. She knew what this could mean. She had broken every rule. There was no denying it. She had treated an animal after hours, without authorization, without supervision. She had acted without thinking, driven solely by her instinct to save a life. I found him outside, Dr. Hargrave," Olivia stammered, trying to explain. "He was abandoned in the storm, bleeding. I couldn't just leave him out there. He was dying." The older vet's eyes narrowed, her lips pressing into a thin line. "And you thought it was appropriate to break every rule in the book to help him? You know the protocols, Olivia. You can't just act on impulse like this." Olivia's stomach twisted in knots, but she refused to back down. She met Dr. Hargrave's eyes with a look of quiet defiance. "I know the rules, Dr. Hargrave, but I couldn't just stand by and watch him die. He needed help, and I couldn't ignore that." Dr. Hargrave stood silently for a long moment, her gaze flicking from Olivia to the puppy on the table. The tension in the room was palpable. Olivia's hands trembled slightly as she waited for the verdict. She had risked everything for this puppy. Her internship, her reputation, her future. It could all be gone in an instant if Dr. Hargrave decided to make an example of her. Finally, Dr. Hargrave exhaled slowly and turned her attention back to the puppy. She carefully checked the medical chart Olivia had started, her face softening ever so slightly as she took in the careful steps Olivia had already taken to stabilize the puppy. "You're lucky he's still alive," Dr. Hargrave said quietly, her voice softer now. "But this was reckless, Olivia. You know better than this." Olivia swallowed, the weight of her actions heavy in her chest. "I know, but I couldn't let him die. Not after everything he's been through." For a moment, there was no response. Dr. Hargrave continued to examine the puppy, and Olivia held her breath, bracing herself for whatever consequences would come next. She had broken the rules. She had risked everything. But as the silence stretched on, Dr. Hargrave's expression shifted. Just a little. There was something there, something Olivia didn't expect. A hint of understanding. "I'm not going to report this, but if this happens again, your internship is over. Understood?" Dr. Hargrave said, her tone firm, but not without a trace of empathy. Olivia nodded quickly, relief flooding through her. But even as the weight of the situation lifted slightly, she couldn't shake the feeling of danger that still lingered. She had risked everything, and she knew it. But in the end, she had done what her heart told her to do. And for now, that was enough. Charlie, the injured puppy, had been hanging on by a thread. When Olivia found him, he was cold, barely conscious, and his small body was fighting against the storm. But now, after days of intensive care, things were starting to change. His breathing had become steadier, and his wounds, though severe, were slowly healing. The clinic's warmth and Olivia's careful attention had worked wonders. Despite the odds, Charlie had survived the first critical days. He now lay in a soft bed in the clinic's back room, his eyes slowly beginning to brighten as the first signs of life returned. Each day, Olivia watched him grow stronger, his frail body beginning to take on a new vitality. It wasn't just his body healing. Olivia could see something else in those soft brown eyes. A spark, a glimmer of hope. After nearly a week of careful care, Charlie was finally strong enough to attempt his first steps. Olivia placed him gently on the floor, her heart racing. She watched as he wobbled, his legs unsteady but determined. With every shaky step, he seemed to be telling her that he wasn't giving up. And then it happened. Charlie took a tentative step forward, then another. His eyes met Olivia's, and she felt an overwhelming surge of pride. He was walking, a tiny miracle unfolding before her eyes. It wasn't just a physical recovery. It was a symbol of everything he had been through and everything he was about to become. Olivia couldn't help but smile as she watched him make his first real move towards the life he was meant to have. The puppy who had been abandoned, alone and broken, was now showing the world that he was stronger than anyone had ever believed. This was just the beginning. As Charlie continued to grow stronger each day, Olivia couldn't help but feel that his journey needed to be shared. What started as a quiet, almost secret rescue had transformed into something much bigger. Charlie's recovery wasn't just a personal victory. It was a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and hope. One evening, after another successful therapy session, Olivia grabbed her phone. With a deep breath, she captured a video of Charlie taking his first steps across the clinic floor. His little tail wagged, and his eyes were full of life. As Olivia watched the footage, she felt something stir inside her. This wasn't just a puppy getting better. It was a story that could inspire the world. She uploaded the video to social media with a simple caption, "A tiny survivor, proving that miracles are real." Within hours, the video went viral. Thousands of people shared it, and the flood of comments and messages started pouring in. "This puppy is a hero," one comment read. "Incredible story," another said. But it wasn't just the cute puppy that was touching hearts. It was the story behind him. Charlie had been abandoned, alone, and near death. Yet here he was, taking steps toward a bright future, thanks to Olivia's dedication and love. The video spread like wildfire, and soon news outlets were reaching out. Charlie's story was everywhere, from local news to global platforms. People around the world were sharing his journey, calling him a symbol of hope and recovery. Donations began pouring into the clinic, and people wanted to help. For Olivia, it was surreal. What started as a decision to save one small life had turned into an international movement. Charlie wasn't just a survivor. He had become a symbol of resilience, inspiring countless people. The clinic's phone rang off the hook, and soon enough, Olivia found herself in the spotlight, not as an intern, but as the person who had given Charlie the chance to thrive. As Charlie's story continued to spread like wildfire, the clinic became the center of attention. People from all over the world were calling, donating, and even visiting, eager to catch a glimpse of the miracle puppy. But while the public's response was overwhelmingly positive, not everyone at the clinic shared the same enthusiasm. Dr. Winters, the clinic's strict and pragmatic head veterinarian, was one of the first to express concerns. As a seasoned professional, she saw things through a clinical lens. Rules, procedures, and professionalism were always her top priorities. Olivia's actions, while well-intentioned, had been reckless, and Dr. Winters was concerned about the clinic's reputation. "I understand that the puppy's recovery is impressive, Olivia," Dr. Winters said one afternoon, her voice cold and professional. "But we cannot allow the clinic to become a circus. We have a standard to maintain. Breaking protocol like this isn't just risky, it's irresponsible." Olivia felt a tight knot form in her stomach. The criticism stung. She had worked tirelessly to help Charlie, and now, instead of support, she was facing resistance. Dr. Winters was concerned about the clinic's reputation, and Olivia couldn't argue with that. But she also knew that Charlie's story had sparked something bigger, something that couldn't be ignored. Despite the pushback from Dr. Winters, the clinic's newfound reputation was undeniable. With Charlie's story continuing to gain attention, the public's perception of the clinic was changing. It wasn't just a medical facility anymore. It had become a symbol of hope, compassion, and healing. Clients were now choosing the clinic because of its involvement with Charlie. People wanted to be a part of the story, to see firsthand the place where such a miraculous recovery had taken place. The clinic's social media following exploded, and donors continued to contribute, ensuring that the clinic had the resources it needed to help even more animals in need. But this new wave of attention didn't sit well with everyone. Dr. Winters continued to push for Olivia's actions to be seen as a cautionary tale rather than a triumph. She was worried that the clinic might lose its professional standing, that the attention would be fleeting, and that Charlie's story would ultimately become a distraction from the clinic's true mission. The clash between Olivia's passion for saving lives and the clinic's more traditional, rule-bound approach created an uncomfortable tension. Olivia was torn. She wanted to protect Charlie and continue doing what she knew was right, but she also understood that there were consequences to the attention they were receiving. Would the clinic's newfound fame help or hinder her mission to care for animals? And more importantly, would Charlie's story be enough to shift the mindset of the clinic's leadership? The tension that had built between Olivia and the clinic's management finally came to a head when Dr. Winters, after much deliberation, finally acknowledged the impact that Charlie's recovery had on the clinic. It wasn't just about the rules anymore. It was about the bigger picture, the lives they could change if they embraced a more compassionate approach. Olivia had always known she was meant to help animals, but Charlie had shown her something deeper: the power of empathy, the importance of fighting for what was right, even when it seemed like the odds were against her. In the end, it wasn't just the puppy's recovery that had been miraculous. It was the way it had transformed Olivia herself. The clinic offered Olivia a permanent position as a lead vet technician, recognizing her dedication, not only to Charlie, but to the animals she had sworn to care for. Her perseverance had paid off, and the clinic had changed its perspective on what truly mattered: compassion and care above all else. As for Charlie, his journey didn't end with the clinic. He had become more than just a symbol of hope. He was a living, breathing testament to the resilience of life. After his recovery, a loving family stepped forward, drawn to his story and the bond he had formed with Olivia. They had been following Charlie's progress from the beginning, and they knew that they wanted him to be a part of their lives. The day Charlie was adopted was filled with emotion. Olivia watched as the family met Charlie for the first time, their eyes lighting up with love and excitement. She knew that he was going to be loved and cared for in ways she couldn't have imagined. With a final hug and a promise to stay in touch, Olivia sent Charlie off to his new home, knowing that he would never be forgotten and that his journey had left a lasting imprint on everyone he had touched. As Olivia stood at the clinic window, watching the family drive away with Charlie, a sense of peace washed over her. It wasn't just the puppy that had been saved. It was a reminder that sometimes taking risks for the right reasons could change everything. Charlie's story had opened doors, healed wounds, and given Olivia the courage to follow her heart. In the end, the clinic had found its new mission, one that centered around not just treating animals, but helping them heal emotionally, too. Olivia, Charlie, and everyone who had witnessed their journey had learned that hope could be found even in the darkest of times, and miracles could happen when you believed in them. As the sun set on another quiet evening at the clinic, Olivia smiled softly. She had saved a life, and in doing so, she had changed her own forever. Charlie had found his family, and Olivia had found her purpose. It was a new beginning for them both, one filled with hope, love, and the knowledge that sometimes the greatest miracles come when you break all the rules. As we wrap up Charlie's incredible journey, we want to remind you that his story is just one of many. There are countless animals out there, abandoned, hurt, and in need of a second chance. Every day, compassionate people like Olivia are making a difference, but they can't do it alone. You have the power to help. Whether it's by donating to your local animal shelters, volunteering your time, or simply spreading the word about the importance of animal rescue, every small act counts. Your support can give these animals the chance to heal, to find a loving home, and to change lives, just like Charlie did. If you believe in the power of compassion and the difference one person can make, take action today. Visit your local shelter, donate, or adopt, because every animal deserves a second chance at life. Charlie's journey reminds us that no act of kindness is too small. Let's work together to create more stories of hope, healing, and second chances. Help make a difference. Be the reason an animal gets the chance they deserve. If you want to support rescue efforts or learn more about how you can help, click the link in the description below. Together, we can change lives, one rescue at a time.